Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're going to be profiling another deck. I really like this one. It is Raichu Crobat, and this is the list that I was going to play for Nationals, and I actually really love this list. I will show off the deck that I did play for Nationals and give you a little brief summary of how I did. Essentially, the idea of this deck is to use Raichu Circle Circuit. Now that we have Skyfield, we can hit 160. With the Bangle, we can hit 190. And then you use the Crobats with Sneaky and Surprise Bite, as you can see here, to do that extra damage to kill Megas. So an extra drop of a single Golbat can hit 210, which knocks out Mega Manetrix in a turn. Also Mega Gardevoir. We don't really see that much anymore. If we drop a second Golbat, we can knock out Rayquazas, the colourless one, even if they have Altaria. We do need to drop quite a few if we actually want to kill the Dragon Ray. But really the whole idea is to hit really, really hard with Raichu, and then have this additional sniping to help us knock out things we need, and also kill stuff like Executes on the bench against Rayquaza as well, hurting that really nicely. Also against other like decks that just hit face, such as Night March and stuff, we have snipers to help us take additional prizes, such as the Crobat, who can kill Joltix and stuff like that. So very, very powerful, very, very fast deck. And basically, let's get into the profile here. So we've got the 4-4 Raichu, trying to max it out for consistency. I've actually gone for a 4-3-2 line of Crobat. I know it's a pyramid line, and that's pretty much a no-no in the card game, but for the bats, it seems to work for me. Because we're using Shaman as our draw engine, it's really detrimental if we start drawing into Crobats early on in the game. We actually just want to search it out once or twice. It's usually the Golbat drops that are most crucial to us. So these things, they can be fairly low lines. We have trump cards still at the moment, until the 20th of June at least. Or the 15th, I think it is, for Europe. I will do a video on this card being banned, but I'm still collecting my thoughts, and I want to bring out a nice video for you guys. I'm not just going to do it off the cuff, 5-minute talk, rambling on, because I tried that and it did end up to be a ramble. So I will talk about the ban later on, probably later on in the week. So yeah, we can pretty much survive with this fairly low bat line, especially because we play, as you can see down here, Scoop Up Cyclone and 3 Super Scoop Ups to respam them if we wish. Here is the 4 Shaman EX. This is pretty much the card that makes this deck function. We have the ability set up, allowing us to draw back up to 6 cards. It can really mean we have quite explosive turns, even though we don't attack with Raichu turn 1. We can fill our bench to like 6 or 7, 8 if we really want to. It's kind of risky to overextend too much, but basically find as many Zubats as you want early on to help out your turn 2 to make sure that we can start getting knockouts from then on. We also have one Execute in here. Execute's used for that propagation ability. It means that if Skyfield hits the discard pile, we can pop the egg back into the hand to count as one of our Pokemon. This can help out if we're just short of knocking out something and we can't search Pokemon out in any other form. So we just get the egg, pop him down there, and fulfill the knockout basically. Also, he just makes Ultra Balls cheaper, which is nice if we really need that to happen. So we get the most out of our hand as often as we can. The final other one-off that we play is a single Jirachi EX. Stellar Guidance, still really, really helpful. And there's a few different tech supporters that you're going to want. Jirachi is really helpful against Train Lock for helping you get into these supporter cards when the other cards in our draw engine is sort of gone. So just a helpful Pokemon to have here. And again, having a Pokemon to search out a supporter is helpful because it fulfills the cost for Raichu Circle Circuit. So it's just, again, adding the Pokemon count to the mix. We're playing 23, which is absolutely monstrous numbers. I think we're playing 14 basics. So we're often going to have plenty to fulfill the attacks throughout with Circle Circuit. Onto the trainers, I mentioned the Scoop Up and Super Scoop Up. This is to help speed along Shaman so we can get through 3 or 4 in a turn if we really want to. And also, like I say, for the bats, picking them back up, respamming that damage, really, really nice for hitting these magic numbers constantly. We're also playing 2 Trainers Mail, looking at the top 4, and finding one card we get and putting it into the hand. It's a real good consistency booster for the deck, helping us get into our resources nice and quickly. Also combos nicely with Shaman, can help us basically find Ultra Ball and Repeat Balls, so those are the main things I search for. Also like Bangle and stuff to add damage, but it's just a good consistency booster that a lot of people should be playing. So we've got the 4 Ultra Ball and the 2 Repeat Ball, as I say. It's all about getting the Pokemon out in this deck. Raichu feeds off of having loads of Pokemon, basically. The output is all because of that. You having a full bench and also having the extra like Repeat Balls and stuff means that we can find extra Golbats to do extra drops of damage, which is really, really nice throughout the whole game. Finally, for trainers, we have 3 VS Seeker. Pretty standard, really, re-spamming our supporters however we want to. We do also have the 3 Silver Bangle. It's far, far superior to having Muscle Band, and this is one of the only decks where it really does matter. Because Circle Circuit does 190 with the Bangle, so it does hit that 210 with a Golbat drop. If you were to play Muscle Band, you'd be doing 180, and that Golbat drop would only do 200. So you're missing out on KOs on a lot of things in the format. So playing Bangle, really, really important. If you think about it, we're never going to be missing KOs on non-EXs. So it's really not a worry if that's sort of a dead card in the matchup, because it's really not going to be too influential against anything else. You're going to be hitting the numbers high enough anyway without Bangle support if it's a non-EX. We have the 4 Skyfield. This is essential for Raichu. We just need it for the output. We need to maximize copies to get into it early and keep bouncing other people's stadiums away, especially stuff like Silent Lab. If they're going to play that, we want to have access to Skyfield as early as possible so that we don't waste our Shamans and stuff like that. Onto supporters, we've got a single trump card in here, and it's still legal, so I may as well keep profiling it until that date. It's really, really helpful for spamming these Super Scoop Ups and Cyclone. Really, really nice for us. We have 2 Colress in here. Colress really, really strong when we have a bench of 8 on our own side of the field. It can get to 10, 12, over that even, sometimes when your opponent's playing Skyfield as well. Over the Nationals, I played against a Rayquaza deck and I drew for 16, and I just had to high-five the guy because it was literally like half of my deck at the time. So Colress, really, really strong card. Then we have 2 Lysander as well. Lysander, really, really good. Again, picking off the things we need so that we can keep hitting into EXs really is the main point, so that we have the good, favourable prize exchange with this deck. Attacking with a non-EX for just a DCE, and also being able to kill EX turn after turn puts a lot of pressure on the opponent. So if we can Lysander up Shamans, we only need 3 bench Pokemon to start killing Shamans with Raichu thanks to weakness, or even 2 and a Bangle, so we can really take advantage of Lysander from as early as turn 1, really. I mean turn 2. Finally, we have 2 teammates. Teammates, very, very helpful as well. I really like this card. Definitely in the Trainer Lock matchup. This is the main thing. Because we can't use Silver Bangle to increase our output, we need to use the Bat Drop so that we can kill Seismitoads. With an 8, a full bench of 8, Raichu hits 160, like I say, and the Golbat Drop pushes it to 180 so that we can actually knock out Seismitoads in a turn. But often we're going to be digging for cards like DCE and multiple other Pokemon. Teammates can really help us get there a lot of the time, and I really like running this card in the deck to overall just help consistency, especially as well because we're playing just in other matchups like the non-Seismitoad matchup. They're going to be having to attack into the Raichu because it's too much of a threat for the most part. So we're going to get quite a few uses out of teammates to help us chain these knockouts, get our next DC Raichu combo set up. So very, very useful here. Finally, we've got the 4 Juniper. Juniper's Juniper. Don't really need to explain it. And for energy, we just have the 4 double colourless energies. So this is the list that I'm profiling, and it's definitely my favourite list, but it's not the list I actually took to Nationals. The list I took to Nationals it added a 2-2 Leafeon count, and I actually look back at this now and I feel like it's a really disgusting deck in comparison. I essentially bottled it, really. I was too afraid of Seismitoad. I think Raichu Bats' worst matchup is Seismitoad variants. So I guess it's fair reasoning why I added the Leafeon in here. But as you can see, the list is just a lot less consistent in my opinion. Potentially something I would carry on going forward is a third teammates and the one Colress. That seemed to work out okay. I could flip-flop that in the other list that I just showed off. But essentially I wanted a 2-2 Leafeon line. It's searchable via teammates. Basically you just grab the Eevee and Grass to get going with Leafeon, so that we have something to do against the Toad. But ultimately I played 2 Seismitoad decks. I won one, lost one. So the Leafeon wasn't too helpful. I actually ended up going top 16 at Nats, so the deck still performed fairly well, even though, as you can see, it's quite a clunkier version. I mean, I had to get rid of the 4 Super Scoop-Ups, well, the 3 Super Scoop-Up that I play, for the energy, basically, and this also thinned out the Crobat line. It just made the whole deck a bit clunkier, really, and I felt throughout the whole day it was clunky. Basically, I made this snap decision, I think the night or two before. Having tested a lot of Raichu bats, I was just too concerned about Toad. So I sort of just tried to sneakily get a bit clever and put the 2-2 Leafeon in here. I don't think it worked too well. I could probably go down to a 1-1 and like 2 Grass. That would probably be fine. But ultimately, the Leafeon didn't put in too much work the whole day. And I would definitely advise playing a more streamlined version so that you overall have better consistency. And to be fair, just having this better speed in the opening turns means you're going to have better setup against Toad anyway. You're going to have more access to Zubats and stuff early on because we have these extra ball search cards. We can spam these Super Scoop-Ups on our first turn at least. So overall, I feel like this is the superior build. But that's a quick little mention about Nationals. I went 5-2-1. My 2 losses went against Jake Wolvin, who came in the top 8 with Seismitoad. And my other loss was against Michael Cornwall playing Hawlucha Landorus Bats, which is just a disgusting matchup for me. He has Landorus to kill Raichus and stuff, and also kill my Bats, so I couldn't really do much damage to him there. So I'm not too concerned about matchups-wise. Toad is probably the most difficult, at least in this deck. As you can see, I've gone back to the one I've just been profiling. We have a slightly thicker line of the Crobat, so against Landorus and like Donphan builds, you pretty much just have to bank on these guys and then use Super Scoop-Ups. Because I took Super Scoop-Up out of my deck with the Leafeon in it, I couldn't do that strategy against the fighting types that Michael played. So I think overall this is probably the best build. And let's jump into a game now. It is very fast and hits like an absolute truck. I really, really like the deck. I think it's very strong. Like I say, I played it for Nationals, pretty much like a slight twist on it after testing this deck quite a bit. So let's hop into a game. I believe Ross Cawthon also played it in Wisconsin Regionals. I believe he was on stream with a similar deck to this. So hopefully this will be enjoyable for you guys. It looks like we're going first, and we start with a couple of Pikachu. And we have Ultra Ball for Shaman, which is pretty much like the best hand we can ask for here. We'll see what our opponent's playing. I didn't really catch it, but it looks like it's a Rayquaza build, so this is a highly favourable matchup for us. And we're going to start off with the Trainer's Mail. We do find Skyfield. I actually feel like I am going to take the Cyclone, I think. Yeah. So we're going to attach to the Pikachu here, use our Ultra Ball, and find a Shaman for 5. And you can see already the speed of this deck. We've not used our supporter yet. We've already got the Pikachu ready for next turn pretty much. And we're going to carry on drawing. We have Skyfield now. We can repeat ball for another Pikachu. I see no reason not to. We can also play an Ultra Ball. We don't even need Juniper yet. We don't have to think about using a supporter because we have our last Shaman. We actually have prize 2, but we're still okay here. And we're going to draw another 5. We find our first Bat. We can also go for a Scoop Up Cyclone. And we don't actually need to Juniper here. So I'm just going to go for another Shaman drop. And we're going to repeat ball for another Zubat, I think. That's all we need to do this turn. We have 2 Pikachus lined up for next turn, so we're in pretty good shape here. And we've got the Ultra Ball for the Raichu next turn. and the DCE if he wants to Lysander this one up. We'll see what the Rayquaza player can do. It's already a very difficult matchup. I know that I played Rayquaza once throughout the day, and it was just very, very difficult for him to do anything. Keeping up with prize trade, really the only way they can do it is to Lysander 3 Shaymins. Other than that, we're probably going to win. So we do actually see the Altaria come down, and this is not too worrying for us, really. We have 2 bats already, so if we can go Golbat, we can still knock out this active Pokemon. It does mean we have to search for a couple extra things, though. We could also Ultra Ball for Lysander to try and kill that Altaria. But we don't see any energy come onto the Rayquaza, so that's a bit of a whiff from our opponent. Here, I'm going to go for the Zubat drop, and we can Ultra Ball as well to find ourselves a Raichu. We are going to put it on the active. We don't play too many switching cards, we only have Super Scoop Ups, so it's safer just to put it on the Raichu, put it on our active. We also do somewhat of a whiff here, pretty bad hand from us. So we're just going to go for the Circle Circuit. It's not too worrying, seeing as though he didn't take an early prize. We're still threatening this guy a lot. We also missed all of our Golbat drops. But we have got the teammates for next turn, so it's like a guaranteed knockout, basically. We see a Colress for a lot of cards. And then a Trainer's Mail. Again, I'm not too concerned by the fact that he can start taking knockouts, because he has to run through 6 non-EXs, or at least 4 Raichu and then a Shaymin. So naturally, we've just got a fantastic matchup against this deck. So we see an Ultra Ball. He actually plays one of his own Raichu, at least one of his own. And we're going to see an Ultra Ball into another Execute. I think he's doing it just so that he can mill through more cards. Maybe lower his hand size for a Shaymin play. We do see another Propagate. We see an Egg hit the bench. And another one. And then we see a switch. It looks like he's going to try and save the Quasar here. We're going to see an Ultra Ball. Unless he's just trying to burn more cards for another Shaymin. Yep, it looks like that could have been the play. And we're going to see a Shaymin for 4. We still do not see any energy in his discard pile, so he's going to have to find another means of getting 3 energy this turn to attack. And it looks like he scooped. I'm actually not surprised by that at all. He really needed to get attacking, really the turn before, to even have a chance in that matchup. But as you can see, we filled the board quite nicely, and Rayquaza just has no hope against that Raichu Bats deck. Even with the Altaria, we were going to out-hit it with our 3 Zubat that we had on the bench to help us add those extra counters on the board. So let's try and jump into another game here and get a longer game, hopefully. Longer than 2 turns at least. Another thing to mention, guys, is that we're almost on 500 subscribers, and because I went top 16 at Nats, I actually won a booster box. So we're going to be doing a 36 code giveaway for you guys for the 500 subs. So a video of that will be coming out soon. There's no point in commenting below this video. I'll be making one later on in the week about how you can win 36 codes for the PTCGO. So hopefully you guys all enjoy that. So we start off with Zubat. We're again going first, which is quite nice. We can Ultra Ball here. I'm going to get rid of Super Scoop Up and Lysander. And we're going to find ourselves a Shaymin straight away, I think. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go for a Pikachu first. We're going to go Pikachu, drop Skyfield, drop the Bangle, and then just Jirachi for a Sycamore. slightly slower, but we're still going to get to see 7 cards and probably a lot more. So we get rid of our Raichu. We do find a Zubat. We can also repeat ball for another Pikachu. And as you can see, it's very easy for us to fill our bench and get set up in a turn. We are going to attach the DCE to a Pikachu and go for a Shaman for 4 more cards. We can then bench another Shaman. I'm not too concerned about over-benching because if our opponent moves the stadium, we can get rid of things like Jirachi and Shaman, which are just targets more than anything. But here we pretty much have the complete setup. I feel like we may as well hold on to these Pokemon. We have teammates, so I think it's safe to keep Zubat in the active position here. We still don't know what our opponent's playing, but we've had a pretty decent start. So we see an Acrobike early on. And it gets rid of a Grass Energy, so I'm not sure what our opponent's going to be playing. Maybe a Raichu Leafeon build. Oh, it looks like it's another Quasar deck, so we've got quite lucky. 2 Rayquazas on the bounce. We see a DC onto the Shaman, and they just Sky Return to give up. Okie dokie. Yep, that is the only response a Rayquaza player can do to Raichu, really. Let's try and find a game that's not Quasar. I'm surprised there's so many on the ladder still. No Rayquaza deck got in the top 8 for Nationals. I don't think any Rayquaza player did particularly well. Overall, it seemed to have bombed a little bit. So it's surprising to see so many on the ladder still. So here we are, we've got a game against Boss Jr. And we're going to flip some coins. And it looks like our opponent gets to choose whether or not they'd like to go first. And we're going to start with Zubat. I feel like Zubat's always the best starter. He's a free retreater and he protects the Pikachu because Pikachu does actually need protecting in this deck. We don't have Wally in here. It was something I did play around with, but it just ruined consistency a little bit for me. And it looks like we're up against Toad, and they opted to go second so that they can get the first Quaking Punch. This was actually something we saw a lot at Nationals. I know that people in mirror matches were very happy to go second so that they can get the first Quaking Punch. And that's something for you guys, if you are playing Seismitoad, to be very aware of. It's actually probably best to go second in that matchup. No, I'm actually going to use the Super Scoop Up to try and pick up Jirachi here. It does fail, but we could have got it in the discard pile for either trump card or so that we just can't get targeted. We do find Skyfield. I'm pretty wary of getting both on the field, so I'm just going to Ultra Ball away the Crobat and the Lysander here to find ourselves another Zubat. Zubat's very important. They can trigger teammates really nicely for us if our opponent puts Muscle Band on. And that's really helpful. So we actually find another Zubat. We can put a Bangle down. That's pretty big. And we can just end our turn here. We have 2 Raichu for next turn and a potentially large Colress. So we see another Seismitoad hit the bench. A DCE onto the active. There is the Verbank City Gym. I'm going to get rid of Jirachi. It's slightly better to have Shaman because it can still use Sky Return to escape. It's still pretty bad though because it can get head-ringed. We're going to put both Raichus on the field and then we're going to put Skyfield back into play and we're going to use Colress. It looks like our opponent had a fairly bad hand because they were unable to knock out this Zubat and even play a supporter. So we have 6 on the board. We can bench this egg as well and then Shaman, hoping to find DCE. If we get it, we can kill a Seismitoad. Unfortunately, we do miss. So it looks like I might just retreat into the other Zubat here. Seeing as though we don't have a teammate, so we may as well try and protect the Zubat as best we can. Here we see a Headringer come onto one of our Shamans. Another DC gets put into play, and just another attack for 30 here. we're able to find a Golbat, which is fairly useful. But I think we need to just wait until we can get a knockout with Raichu. If we start splashing damage, they can start using their Super Scoop Ups. So again, it's just going to be a retreat into another Zubat and pass. It's been a shame that we've missed DCE because we could have really put so much pressure on our opponent here. So we see a Swirlix, so it looks like it's a Slurpuff build. And then we see another energy hit the field and another attack for 30. We do draw into a Shaman. Our hand is too large right now. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can go down to 6, so the Shaman's not helpful. And we have a full bench. So again, it's just a retreat pass, unfortunately. Hopefully our opponent doesn't play any spread, because they could take 3 knockouts next turn. But I still think we're in good shape. We just need to start drawing into either teammates or DCEs. Or just any supporter, really. Any Juniper is fine at this point. We do actually have a lot of ours, but we've been missing them. So a evolution into the Colrus, then an evolution and then a usage of Colrus. Then we see a Trainer's Mail, a Muscle Band hits the field, and there is a Verbank. So we're going to get rid of Egg, the Headringed Shaman, and I think the other Shaman as well can go. I think that's fine. So we do see that Verbank come into play. Then a Tasting from the Slurpuff, it looked like. Floatstone comes on it just to protect it. Another Trainer's Mail can be played. And we see a Crushing Hammer. We don't have any energy. That's our issue already at the moment. But that's something to bear in mind. And we do see a Quaking Punch for 50 now that they have found Muscle Band. So we're going to go into Raichu. As you can see, our whole board is free retreaters, so pretty good stuff there. We have a Lysander. 2, 4, 5, 6. We still have too much of a hand. This is the issue here. I think we need to start trying to empty the hand as best we can. I'm going to go for a Golbat drop onto the benched. Because we have Bangle, we don't really need to extend way too hard. We're going to try and Lysander a Swirlix to try and get a turn of attacking. And there's no point in us benching Shaman just yet, so I think here free retreating into a Zubat is the best play. We could potentially go into the Raichu, but if it gets lasered, it'll die coming back into our turn. So although we lose a Pokemon with Zubat, actually, you know what? I think this Raichu's fine. I'd rather keep the bench Pokemon for a big circle circuit. At the moment, we're hitting 110 with this guy. We see a Super Scoop Up. That gets a Tails. That's good for us. Then a Laser. That too is a Tails. Also good for us. And then we're going to see a Juniper. So it looks like our opponent has to dig for the Floatstone or another Super Scoop Up. There's an Energy, actually. That also gets our opponent out of the active. Oh, it looks like they've decided to change their minds. Going for another Scoop Up. That does get a Tails. Then we see a Trainer's Mail for a Lysander. There is the attachment onto the Swirlix once again so that they can move out of the active into their muscle-banded Seismitoad. Then we see a Tasting before hitting us for some more damage. And we actually finally top deck into something. We find Colrus, so we are going to propagate into the hand and then play him down so that we can get another card from this Colrus and hopefully find ourselves a DCE here and a few bats to drop. We do draw into DCE, so we're doing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13. The Golbat brings us to 15. So I think it's still worth holding on to the bat. If we can't get the knockout, the bats are worth protecting because we've already seen our opponent burn through a few Super Scoop Ups, but there could be more in his deck. So we're just going to go for the Circle Circuit here because Verbank we weren't able to drop the Shaman for some more cards, but we're starting to apply the pressure now. So we see a Hypnotoxic Laser. That does flip tails. And then we're going to see a Skylar as well. Interesting to see a Toad player actually play Skylar. It's normally just so fast that it doesn't really matter. Then we see the Enhanced Hammer, and then just a Quaking Punch, missing the knockout. Here we can freely retreat into our other Raichu, trying to protect this one a little bit. And we do have the DCE to get a knockout this turn. We have teammates for next turn to try and kill this one. So we're looking in pretty good shape here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. He's interested in my Execute. Why is that? To trade? I don't know. He's looking for trades. We were actually able to pluck a DCE from the prizes, which is really big for us. We're going to see a VS Seeker for a trump card, and that's not too worrying. That puts a DCE back in the deck for us, which is good. That's pretty much the only thing we need. It also puts a Crobat, I believe, for us back in the deck. We got rid of one of those earlier on, so that's good for us. We have teammates as well, so we're definitely going to be able to kill this Toad. Then we see a Tasting for a Crushing Hammer for some reason. He's getting a knockout anyway. And he's just going to, yeah, as we see, Quaking Punch. We do have to be worried a little bit about that Grenade Hammer if we start benching Shamans. But for now, we're fine. Actually, what am I saying? We can knock this guy out. 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 with the Bangle. So we can go... So let's first attach. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we can go for a... We're going to put Skyfield in. We're going to go for teammates for a Crobat, definitely. Actually, I think a Pikachu is useful. We could just go for 2 Pokemon, I think. So the Pikachu goes here, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We actually have the knockout, so we can go for another teammates for next turn so that we can try and chain it, if it's still in deck, actually. Yeah, we have a teammates, so that's good for us. We can bench Pikachu. Do the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Here we go. Sorry, just having to do the maths in my head. Kind of mathsy, even though it's the 2 times table. We can bench the Shaman EX and just go for the Circle Circuit to knock this guy out. So we've done pretty well there. Teammates putting in the work. That's the main function of the card in the deck. And again, we've gone up 2 prizes. Our opponent has no setup, but a Toad can come out of anywhere, as we all are aware. But in terms of prize trade, we're looking in great shape here. We do see a Verbank, so I'm going to get rid of the egg, because that's something we can recover quite easily. And then we're going to see a Juniper. Getting rid of quite a few things. Then we see a Tasting as well. Then a Laser, which is actually going to get the knockout. But if we're given a turn of trainers here, that's good enough for me, really. We might be able to actually get game. If we can double Crobat drop, we can actually get game. We will not be able to use teammates, though, because Poison does not activate teammates, seeing as though it's an in-between turns effect. So we're going to have to dig for Shamans. We see a DCE, for some reason, come onto the Slurpuff. And we're going to die to Poison. So here, let's push for game. Let's try and empty our hand as well, as much as we can here. So we're going to slap a couple of Bangles down. We can evolve into Raichu. There's no real point in teammates or trump card here, so we're going to Ultra Ball. We're going to find... Are both Crobats in here? They are. So we're going to try and push for game here. We can go... Actually, first of all, we need to go for the Super Scoop Up, because I don't know if it's safe enough to repeat ball yet. So we're going to... Now that we have that Super Scoop Up heads, which is really big for us, we can go for the Crobat drop, then repeat ball for our other Crobat. Kill that real quick. And then we're just going to take a prize and hopefully find a Juniper as well, so that's good. If we miss the DC off this, it looks like we did. We've still got plenty of milling to go here. I'm going to go for a Super Scoop Up. Haven't quite got the knockout yet because we just need DCE. We do get a heads on that Super Scoop Up. As you can see, we're milling through nice and quick here. We can Ultra Ball to lower the hand size. I'm going to fail the search. Actually, we may as well find Pikachu, I think. Actually, I am going to fail the search just because if we find another Shaman, we can drop that down as well. If we had Pikachu, we couldn't do that. See, there we go. We can Trainer's Mail. Oh, we have DC. I've been digging so hard, I forgot what I was digging for. Here we go. There's the DCE. We still don't have enough Pokemon. So, our opponent scoops. There it is. Actually, we did have enough Pokemon with the egg, so that was a pretty good matchup, I'd say. We were able to annihilate a Toad Puff player. Looks like it wasn't Toad Shaman. I think that's what led to their fairly slow start. You won't have that sort of luxury against Toad Shaman. I will wager that a lot. So there's the list if you guys are still interested. It's a very, very fast deck, very hard hitting. These bats can come in handy in all sorts of situations. You just saw how it helped actually push the game a turn earlier than our opponent would have expected. So, very nice deck. Real big fan of this, and I think it's a good one for the future as well. It can work without trump card as well, guys, in my opinion. You just have to be more careful with your DC attachments, and you probably need a thicker bat line. But overall, this can function even without trump card, and I think it's going to be a good deck and a good archetype for a good few months now. So there it is. I've been Joe from Omnipoke, guys, and I will see you guys next time.